Hi everyone, good evening. Welcome to this Yin class tonight. You might want to have handy some of the props that you would usually have, maybe a bolster or a cushion or a blanket and a brick or a couple of bricks. So gathering everything that you need and coming straight down to lie flat on your backs with your knees bent in a semi-supine position. And you can adjust your feet as close in towards your buttocks or as far away as feels right for you. We're going to use this constructive rest position to settle this evening, to come into the body. Taking a few moments to give yourself permission to begin to unwind. Can you feel the weight of your body, especially on each exhalation? Notice the stream of a natural breath. Hi to those of you who've recently joined. And tonight's practice is a culmination of the 6 weeks, in the same way that the Hatha Flow and the gentle yoga classes have been. In that we are going to use a series of yin poses to flow through the whole of the chakra sequence, from the very root of our being, the area of the pelvic floor, up through the lower belly and pelvis, solar plexus, heart space, throat and neck, and then behind the eyes into the space and peace of the skull. And I'll talk a little bit more as we go along about each chakra, about each energy center. But for now, can you take your attention, drop your attention down into the floor of your pelvis? So if this isn't familiar to you, this is the area of your perineum. And as you breathe in, feeling a softening and like a spreading out of this area of the body. And as you breathe out, ever so delicately contracting up from the pelvic floor or the perineum towards your lower belly, but inside the body. So this is not a grip. It's a gentle lift of energy with the exhalation up from the pelvic floor. So we are activating the Muladhara Chakra, the root chakra, with this breath. And some people may find there's a little bit of clenching around the anus, around more of the body than the pelvic floor, and it doesn't matter. And continue to take a few breaths like this as you keep settling into your body and noticing how you're feeling tonight. And as we work on this root area of the body, you may, if you like visualizing, you might like to visualize a red glow around this area of the floor of the pelvis. And an accompanying syllable of sound is Lam, which you could chant internally, or if you want to, you could chant externally as you take another minute or so here, breathing and feeling into this area, visualizing and working with sound. And then we're not going to stop our focus on this area of the body, but we're going to move into a slightly different pose. So if you'd like to gently bring yourself over to one side and push yourself up, we're going to come into a reclining goddess pose, which in a way is going to simultaneously target the root chakra and the area of the hips and the pelvis, the Sadistana. Now, you could use a bolster horizontally across your mat. I'm afraid I got blue on blue here, but I'm not placing it lengthways. It's across the mat. Or you could roll up a blanket, because we're going to come and drape ourselves right over the bolster. And if your head doesn't reach the floor, place something underneath it. So we're getting a nice opening in the chest as well. And then bring the soles of your feet together and your knees out to the side. And if you're hypermobile, or if you just prefer to, place a brick or a book under each thigh, so there's some support for the hips and the legs. And we're going to stay about 4 to 5 minutes here. And this should feel as if you're opening the body, but there should be no strain. It's the whole of the back of your ribs that is draped over the bolster, so your shoulders, neck and head are free. And although we're targeting lots of parts of the body here, I'd still like your focus to be on Lam, on the colour red. And you could continue this gentle lift from the pelvic floor on each exhalation as you settle into the root of your being. And I should probably say that this chakra flow was not designed by me. It's a flow that was put together by the yoga teacher Jackie Quayle. Some of you may know her. She runs a studio called the Yoga Bank down in Cheshire. And keep settling, keep opening. Keep focusing on the breath and that gentle contraction of the pelvic floor as you exhale. And there are affirming statements that you might find helpful, such as, I feel grounded no matter my circumstance. Or, I feel safe, loved and connected and feel that I belong. I feel grounded no matter my circumstance. I feel safe, loved and connected and feel that I belong. And as you come into the final 2 minutes of this pose, you might like to observe if you're feeling as if you're holding on tight in any parts of the body. And if you can invite your exhalations to release these areas of tension, these areas of holding on. And coming to the top of an inhalation and pausing and exhaling with your mouth open. And taking 2 more breaths like that. And then when you're ready, you could use your hands to ease your knees together, soles of your feet on the floor. And then roll very carefully off to one side, sliding your bolster or your blanket, whatever you used, over to one side and resting in a fetal recovery position for a few breaths. Until you're ready to roll onto your back again, and we'll take a few minutes in a happy baby pose now to come a little more explicitly into the pelvis, the sacrum, the area of the hips and the lower belly. So the soles of your feet need to be facing the ceiling. And it may be that for you, you take your hands behind your knees and you draw them apart and down towards your armpits. Or it may be you can reach higher up the forelegs, and some of you will be able to hold onto your feet. Now, this is a pose that can cause the head to roll back and the chin to jet up. So if you are finding that, please place something behind your head so that you've got nice length in the back of the neck, and we'll stay now for about 4 more minutes. A little bit of pressure as you pull the legs down, and it's fine if you peel your lower back off the floor, or if you find it's nicer to have it pinned flat to the floor. You find what works for you. And become super soft in the face. And as we move up now into the water element, to the area of our pelvis, the Sadistana Chakra, we're coming into the colour orange. If you want to visualize an orange glow in this area, the bija syllable, if you like sound, is vam, internal or externally chanted. And this is the area of our energy body associated with the pleasure we allow ourselves to find in life. Our sensuality, our sexuality, our creativity. And it's not always there and available for all of us all the time. What we're doing with this flow is aligning our subtle body, aligning these energy centers in such a way that should nourish each one and create a balance in the energetic system, the subtle body. Breathe. And for the remaining couple of minutes, identifying if you're gripping or holding on, and if you're able to invite a soft melting feeling into the body. Every exhalation, feel yourself dissolving a little. And then coming to the top of a breath in, pausing and exhaling with your mouth open. And taking 2 more breaths like that, if you would like to. And then bringing your knees together, dropping your feet to the floor. And as you keep your knees together, take your feet apart, mat distance apart. So there's an opposite gentle internal rotation of the hips here, hands on your belly, just for a few breaths. Counter pose to happy baby. And the corresponding affirmative statement, if it interests you, could be, I'm carried by the flow of life. Or I enjoy and welcome my body as radiant, vibrant sensation. I am carried by the flow of life. I enjoy and welcome my body as radiant, vibrant sensation. And then when you're ready, please join me in an all-fours position. With some very gentle spinal movements with the cat-cow. Hands underneath your shoulders, knees underneath your hips. And allow the breath to move you. So begin to inhale and then follow that inhale with a tilt forwards of the pelvis and opening of the chest and throat. Pause and then begin to exhale and draw the tailbone under, chin to your chest, the back of the ribs pushing up. And continue for a few more breaths in your own time. Can you take 2 more full rounds, please? And we're going to come to another pose which targets the Sadistana Chakra, which could either be Tadpole or frog. And you might want a blanket or a bolster handy here. So start by taking your knees as wide apart as feels comfortable for you. You might also want a blanket out in front of you. And start with your big toes together. And for this, you probably don't need a bolster or a blanket. You could just simply settle your head down. And you get a really nice sense of opening in the inner thighs and the groin. So this is Tadpole, and you can start here. And frog, and I'll leave you to decide if and when you're going to do this, is going to involve you bringing your hips up so they're in line with the knees, so they're not behind. And then you bring your forelegs out so that they're parallel with the end of your mat. And you can stick your toes out, your feet out if that's right for you. And this is where it might be really comfortable for you to bring your chest to the floor. Or you might like to drape your chest over a bolster. That's really nice. Takes a little bit of pressure off the shoulders. You take your knees as far apart as you can. So you're really, this is a really intense opening into the groin and the hips. And we'll stay for about another 4 minutes. And some people will be so open in the hips that the pelvis is actually flat on the floor. I've seen people in this position. I'm nowhere near that, and I never will be. And it doesn't matter. It just depends. That's definitely to do with your anatomy, not to do with experience. And you might still be working with the colour orange. There's a lovely glow in the lower belly, right through the pelvis to the sacrum. You might be using the sound bija mantra VAM. Or you might simply be dropping into sensation and observing the breath. It's all good. Please make it your own practice. And observe if there are any parasitic tensions in the body. So if this is really strong for you in the groin and the hips, it would be really natural for you to start clenching in the jaw or in the throat. Can you notice what's going on for you? Embracing the flow of life in the midst of all sensation. Stay close to the breath for about another minute. And coming to the top of a breath in, pausing and breathing out with your mouth open. And if you'd like to, taking 2 more breaths like that. And then from here, if you're in frog like me with your feet out to the sides, very gently bring your toes in together again. And you might feel quite vulnerable, quite tender now. Take a couple of breaths here. Before you begin to gently push onto your elbows, onto your hands, bringing yourself back. Bring your knees in together. I think that's quite an intense pose myself, but we all feel things differently. And then we're going to, as a counter pose, take some windshield wiper legs. So leaning back on your hands, feet about mat distance apart, and very simply take your knees to the left and then come up and take them to the right. So take a few rounds. It should be very soothing, gentle movements. And we're going to come into Shoelace Pose in a transition to between Sadistana and the Manipura Chakra in the solar plexus. So Shoelace is going to involve bringing your right leg on top of the left so that your knees stack. And it may be that you want to place a cushion or a blanket in between the knees if there's a big gap. And some of you might keep the left leg extended. You want to be able to feel both sitting bones. And some of you might feel quite comfortable bringing the left foot around to the right hip. And this can feel quite intense going into the piriformis muscle. Oh, incidentally, Sarah, I saw your message about the psoas. And yes, let's do something in the new year with the psoas muscle. I'll work something nice out for January with the psoas. Let's take a couple of minutes here in this neutral shoelace. Some of you might like your hands on the knees. Some of you might like to enrich the sensation by coming down over your legs, and you might feel this more intensely in the right side. You can also experiment, if you're not feeling very much, with moving the torso around to the right a little. This is for you to explore, or maybe to the left a little. And breathe. And release in the jaw. And whenever I come into shoelace or it's Gomukhasana in Hatha Yoga, I feel the heat it generates. I don't know if you feel that, but this feels very warm now to me. And it's a detox pose. It's working right into the liver and gallbladder, which might have something to do with the heat generated. Might have something to do with the spicy rum I drank last night. Highly recommended with hot apple juice. In small quantities, of course, and in good company. And in the current climate outside in the cold, coming to the top of your next breath in, pausing and exhaling with your mouth open. 2 more if you'd like. And then gently, if you're folded over your legs, coming up. And we're going to stay with our legs just as they are. And now we're coming into the area of the solar plexus with a little twist. So the solar plexus is the Manipura chakra. It's the fire element. This is the seat of our personal potential, the way we express ourselves in the world. So take a breath in, nice and long in the spine. And as you breathe out, take a little twist to the left. And we'll only stay between 1 and 2 minutes on each side. Don't strain it, just feel the envelope of your body here as you feel into sensation. Really aware of the little twist of the spine and the area around the diaphragm and the solar plexus as your ribs are also moving and are involved in this twist. Take one more breath in here and a long breath out. Take another breath in and then exhaling, come back to the center. Take a breath in here. Now we twist to the right. Nothing too extreme. Encouraging a little bit of length in the spine on each breath in. And a very subtle twist and exploration in each breath out. And if you are attuned to what's going on in your body, you may notice that this is a little bit of a massage for your abdominal organs, your stomach, intestine, liver. And take a full breath in and a long breath out. And then inhaling, gently come back to the center. And we're going to simply change the cross of our legs so that the left leg comes on top. And if you need to, your right leg is extended, half shoelace, no problem with that at all. Feeling into both sitting bones, and we stay about 3 minutes in this neutral position, either with your torso upright or folding over the body if that feels nice. And come into the breath. And allow yourself to melt, to dissolve, and to drop through and into those areas that are feeling contracted, maybe presenting you with resistance. As long as there's no pain, it's okay to work with intense sensations. Breathe. Use your exhalations to dissolve a little bit deeper. Got about another minute here. You can come to the top of a breath in and pause. And breathe out with your mouth open. And take 2 more of these breaths if you'd like to. And then gently, gently, if you're folded over, coming up to reassemble your spine. And take a breath in here. And breathe out, twist first to the right for about a minute or so. And I'll just check out a couple of affirmative statements for the Manipura chakra. My life has value, meaning, and purpose. I am empowered, living my life's mission in the world. My life has value, meaning, and purpose. I am empowered, living my life's mission in the world. Take a breath in and a long breath out. Inhale back to the front and exhale, twist to the left. And the color of the fire element of the Manipura chakra is yellow. And the bija sound is Ram, R-A-M. If you want to include that in your practice. Take a full breath in and a long breath out. And then gently inhale back to the front. And we're going to have a little stretch out for about a minute if you would like to in a downward dog. Might be very, very nice after all the contraction and the compression in shoelace. So come into your style of downward dog. You don't have to straighten your legs. And you can move around a little bit here. Just to free up the areas of compressed energy and allow the flow of free energy through the body. Taking a full breath in. And as you exhale, drop your knees. We're coming into a brief dragon sequence. Now it's interesting that Jackie Quayle has put this here because I would associate the dragons with the hips and with the Sadistana Chakra. But maybe because of the fire element and the burning of toxins that comes with working into the hips with dragon, maybe this is the reason it comes in under Manipura for her. So if you'd like to bring your right foot forwards, making sure the ankle is under the knee. Your left knee might be cushioned on something. And you're going to take the left knee as far back as feels right for you. Absolutely fine to have your hands elevated on blocks or something here, because we take a couple of minutes. And it's quite possible that you feel quite stiff in the neck, the shoulders and the jaw here. It's not just about what's going on in the hips. And come to your breath. And see if you can drop the striving, drop the clinging, and simply immerse yourself in the sensations that present themselves here. Which might be very intense for some people. I'm personally experiencing sensations today that I've never felt before in this pose. It just goes to show that it really is true that it's different every time. Breathe. Just a little longer. It's not a too long held pose, this. Keep softening around the edges. Come to the top of a breath in. Pause and then breathe out with your mouth open. Take 2 more breaths like that. And we'll come into a brief half monkey, Ardha Hanumanasana here. If you'd like to bring the left hip back so that your hip is right over the knee, and then slide the right heel away. And we'll take about 30 seconds here, just draping over that front leg. And it's an intense hamstring stretch here. Keep drawing the right hip back, the sitting bones apart, and breathe fully. One more full breath in and a long breath out. And we come forwards again for one more and a final dragon, which is a twisted dragon today. So you could take your left hand down and your right hand on your knee. And you're going to twist over your shoulder here. There's a couple of things you can do. You might roll over onto the outside of your right foot as the knee comes out. That's fine. You might also find it's really nice to bring the left forearm down. So it's a little bit of a twist again, very complex pose. And remember, the focus is on the Manipura, the fire element, this area across the, or between the navel and the solar plexus, the seat of your own personal potential as an individual ego in this world. It's not to be knocked, but it's interesting to observe if you glow too bright into arrogance or too dim into an excess of humility. What's going on for you? Breathe. Where are you holding tightness? Maybe in the face, maybe in the jaw. And take a full breath in. And a long breath out. And then gently, gently come back the way you came. Bring your right knee back. You can stretch the right leg behind you, pushing through the heel. That's quite nice. And you have an optional downward dog, and then coming into child's pose. So I really recommend some really deep sighs here. It's not easy to work in this way with the dragons. It can really stir up lots of discomfort. It's just lovely to come out and breathe through it, free it up. And when you're ready, coming from your downward dog, if you're not already, into a brief pose of the child, knees together or knees apart. And take maybe 2 or 3 of those exhalations with the mouth open if that feels just right to dissolve away residual tension. And then we come up to take those little dragons to the other side. So bringing the left foot forwards, knee over the ankle, taking your right knee as far back as works for you, maybe cushioning it on a blanket. Possibly having your hands elevated on something, and then settling in for a couple of minutes. And breathe. And soften the roof of your mouth. Soften behind the heart space. Go right into it. And isn't it true that it feels so entirely different on each side of the body? And coming to the top of a breath in. Pausing and breathing out with your mouth open. And taking 2 more. And from here, we come back into our half monkey. So start by bringing the left hip back, pulling your toes towards you, but then push the heel forwards because you want this right thigh to be vertical. You don't want to be pulling all the way back towards the heel. And we stay maybe draping over that front leg just for about 30 seconds. It really does require a little act of surrender here. One more full breath in. And a long breath out. And then please bring yourself forwards again for your twisted dragon for a couple of minutes. So remember, you can roll over onto the outer edge of your left foot. You can push your knee out with the left hand as you spin the chest to look over your left shoulder. And maybe you come down on your right forearm. You choose what works for you for a couple of minutes here. And breathe. Releasing in the jaw, releasing behind the eyes, and follow the exhalations out through with a dissolving of sensation. And it is intense, isn't it, for some of us? We're working with fire, stoking our inner furnaces, physically, energetically, metaphorically. And coming to the top of a full breath in. Pausing and exhale, mouth open. And take a couple more like that if you'd like to. And then we gently come back the way we came. Coming into a few breaths in a downward dog and then a child's pose. If you want to miss out the downward dog, that's absolutely fine. You can come straight into child. Whatever you feel you need to allow the flow of energy free course through the body. We're moving into what for most people is one of their favorite chakras, the Anahata chakra, the heart melting, not heart melting, the heart chakra. So from an all fours position now, if you'd like to roll onto your belly, and we'll come to a Sphinx with the option of moving into seal. Start off with your elbows under your shoulders. I think you've all been coming so regularly to these classes, you know your bodies now. I don't think there's, you all know what you're doing. So decide if you need to adjust, if you've got too much compression in your lower spine. You might like to raise your forearms up onto a bolster or bricks if you want to add a little bit more sensation, or you can lift your lower legs up and that will compress the lower spine in a way that's quite healthy unless it hurts. And then soften the face, soften the shoulders, and come into the space of your heart, which is not just out through the front, it's the green glow in the Anahata, out through the front, the back, and the sides, the top and the bottom. Heart spaces are space of unconditional love and compassion for ourselves and for all other beings of the planet. The bija syllable is yam, Y-A-M, if you want to bring sound into your practice. The element is air. And you might really love where you are, or you might like to come for 2 or 3 minutes into a seal where you lift your elbows off the floor, hands come wide, arms straight. And you could take a bolster under your lower ribs, under your belly if that feels right for you, if you want to make it more restorative. And keep softening in the heart space from the back and the front, the sides, the top and the bottom. Can you feel that opening, that glow? As if you're throwing open the doors in all directions and allowing the light to flow out, just as you allow the light from the world around you to flow back in again. And there may be somebody or something who is the subject right now of your unconditional love and compassion. Somebody you'd like to dedicate this pose to. Breathe. I'm able to give and receive love. I'm able to give and receive love. And taking a full breath in. Pause and exhale, mouth open. Take 2 more like that, whether you're in Sphinx or Seal. And on your final breath, wherever you are, lower yourself all the way down and rest your forehead on your hands. And breathe into your belly to create space in the back now and just feel the body. There's nothing to do. Very gently, bringing your hands by your ribs, pushing yourself up to all fours. And we're going to take another back bend, but this time we're going to take a supported bridge. So you could use a brick or a book. You could also use a bolster if you wanted to. But we're going to take the elevation underneath our sacrum. So you're going to come to lying down. And just make sure, especially if you're using a brick, that it's in the right place. So the sacrum's quite a big bone. It should feel really heavy and able to drop down through that brick. And you shouldn't feel that the upper edge of the brick in any way is cutting into your spine. If so, just move it further down. It comes about halfway down your buttocks for most people. Same with the bolster. Make sure the bolster's behind the whole of the back of your pelvis. And then if you're comfortable, lengthen your legs out. And some of you might find this isn't enough elevation. You want more of a feeling of opening across the front of the body. In which case you can lift your brick up a notch. I would not take it to the highest level. You could come halfway to the second level. We're going to stay about 5 minutes here. Simply enjoying a sense of vulnerability, exposure, and opening the front of the body. It doesn't have to be negative to become vulnerable. What we're really doing is increasing our receptivity to everything around us so that we feel more, we notice more, we receive more, and then consequentially we give more back in return. And remembering the bija sound is yam. And you might be visualizing a green glow around the heart space, if that works for you. You can also take your arms over your head, of course. Breathe. I'm able to give and receive love. What does that really mean to you? What does it mean to open your vulnerability to love? Stay very, very close to the breath, very close to sensation. And interestingly, in this pose, although we're beginning with the focus on the Anahata, the heart chakra, we're now also moving into the area of the throat. I'm probably aware there's a bit of compression there. So we're sliding into the area of the Vishuddha Chakra. This area of our vocal cords, our thyroid gland. An area where we become interested in the clarity of our self-expression, of our ability to express ourselves and to be heard, but also to hear others. The element of the Vishuddha Chakra is ether. We're becoming more and more subtle. Earth, water, fire, air, and ether. Keep releasing the jaw and up through the roof of the mouth, really softening in the throat. We've got about another minute here. If you want to explore some breathing with the mouth open, then go ahead, of course. And then if your legs are extended, if you'd like to bend them up so both feet are on the floor. So you're able to push into your feet to lift yourself up off your brick or bolster and slide it away. And then gently come down bone by bone, and it'll feel really lovely to encounter the floor again underneath your lower back. Ooh. Take a few breaths here. If it feels intuitively delicious, bring your knees into your chest. Have a little bit of a massage over your lower back. Nothing too strong. So the next pose is the pose that always makes me a little bit cautious. So we're working with the throat, and the biggest massage and nourishment that you can give your throat would be through a snail pose. And I'm only teaching this with the request that you take absolute caution and responsibility for yourselves. If you've got any issue in the neck at all, or pressure in the eyes, I would rather you came into a seated forward fold like this. You drape yourself, chin in, so there's a little bit of compression in the throat. But you could also, if you wanted to, it'd be fine to come into Viparita Karani with your legs up the wall or legs over a chair. You've got those three options. I'm going to briefly demonstrate snail and then I will come out of it. You might like to have a bolster behind you. And you might like to actually, just like in a shoulder stand, you might like to elevate your shoulders on top of one or two or even three blankets so that your neck is free. This is the last yin pose that we're doing. So you come onto your blanket, your shoulders a little way away from the edge of it so that your neck and your head are free. And then if you're able to, you lift yourself up. It's like coming into a shoulder stand. But then you curl the spine and drop your forelegs to the bolster that's there for you, your feet and ankles. Or maybe you're able to do it without the bolster and bring your knees around your ears. It's really nice to clasp your hands over your lower legs. So this is the most intense flexion of the spine you can experience. This is an intense forward fold. If you're coming into this pose, please, please, please do not move your head from side to side. Don't move it at all. It's very, very delicate for the neck. So we're coming into beautiful compression into the throat, a massage for the thyroid gland. And the syllable is hum or hum. And the colour varies. Some people like the colour purple for this area and some people have the colour blue. So see what comes up for you when you visualise what's going on in the throat. And we'll take about another 3 minutes. And breathe. And keep softening, keep releasing into this pose. Snail is an extraordinary pose. And that it really, really can allow us to feel a complete vulnerability in the whole of the skeleton, which sounds like not such a good thing, but it's a beautiful thing to experience, I think. It's like you can fall apart in order to bring yourself together again, refreshed, new, and free. Breathe. And when you're ready to come out of snail, I want you to come out super slowly and to bring your head with you so you don't strain the neck. If you're coming off the chair or off the wall, bring your knees into the chest. If you're draped like me in a forward fold, very gently unfurl bone by bone. So if you've been in snail and you've come up, you're going to gradually bring yourself to lying flat, but you might find it takes a while to settle, and that's fine. And we will all meet lying on our backs, knees bent, soles of the feet on the floor. Bathing in the aftermath, the residue of whichever variation of that pose you came into. And bringing your attention now to first of all, the space between your eyebrows, between the eyes, but actually the Ajna Chakra. The third eye is internal, it's behind the eyes in the brain. It's the area of the insight and clarity of mind. And although we're coming into a physical twist, I'd like you to keep your attention on the Ajna Chakra. For most people, the colour is a pale blue. And the syllable sound is Om. So bringing your knees into your chest and simply dropping them to the left, eyes to the right. For a couple of minutes in a very simple twist, but with your focus in the third eye. And clarity of mind. And there's nowhere to go here. This is a very gentle pose. You might have a bolster between your thighs if you want to make it quite restorative, even more gentle. And an affirmative statement here could be, I'm willing to see myself and to be seen by others. Or I trust and am guided by my intuition and first-hand knowing. I'm willing to see myself and be seen by others. I trust and am guided by my intuition and first-hand knowing. Can you really soften the forehead and the temples and all the tissues around the eyes, the jaws, the mouth? So you come into a sense of peace and calm within your skull. And gently bring your head back to neutral first, lifting your right knee, taking the foot down, lifting your left knee. Taking a moment to just neutralize the spine here, lying flat before you drop your knees to the right, still with all the same focus I described before, and take your gaze to the left for between 2 and 3 minutes. Can you let go a little into that inner stillness, that inner quiet that really is the root of your being? All pervading. It's like a memory, an ancestral memory of the emptiness and the quiet before time began, before matter came into being. The infinite spaciousness from which all matter, all thought, all existence emerges and to which it returns. A memory of which is in every cell of our body. And then gently bring your head back to neutral first. Lift your left knee up, followed by the right. And for a moment, planting both feet down. feeling the body. And when you're ready, and there's no hurry to get there, coming to a meditation seat. You can come to any seat you like. You could be on a chair. You could be on a bolster. Make sure you're warm enough. And I'd like to stay in a meditation seat for 5 minutes before we come down into Shavasana. But of course, if you would like to come straight into Shavasana, that's lovely too. So make yourselves comfortable. Spine lifting up and out of the pelvis as you drop down through the hips. You might want to bring your left hand into your lap and place your right hand inside the palm with the tips of your thumbs lightly together. If you want to come into Bhairava Mudra, this is a mudra which connects directly with the Ajna and the Sahasrara Chakra. And I'm going to leave us in silence for 5 minutes to come into that sense of quietude. Maybe coming into a slightly more expansive sense of I am. I am. I am. You're welcome to continue in a seated meditation or to come for the final 3 minutes or so to lying flat. And you may like to stay longer in your practice. If you're ready to come out, beginning to take a few slightly deeper breaths. And introducing some very gentle movements into your joints. Maybe having a little bit of a stretch, a little bit of a roll around. Maybe rolling over to one side. And if you're coming out with me, meeting me in a seated position with your hands in Anjali Mudra by your heart space, eyes closed. And taking a full breath in. And on the exhale, bowing your head to honor your practice. And when you're next ready to breathe in, lifting your head gently and opening your eyes. Namaste. Thank you very much for joining me. And I am going